Welcome to the Money Maven Project podcast. If you're here to learn how to obtain freedom over your time and money through real estate investing, you're in the right place. Create the life you want by living with intention and becoming a maven in mindset, money, and real estate. Now, here's your host, Justin Monk.
This is Justin with the Money Maven Project. I am super excited for today's episode. The more I've learned about Dustin Heiner, our guest today, the more excited I've gotten I've become in talking with him, learning more about his story and what he is teaching others to do. And so I'm super stoked. Dustin Heiner is a husband and father of 4 kids and you support them through passive income, businesses, rental properties. You're also the founder of Master Passive Income and the Successfully Unemployed podcast. He is a real estate rental property investor who was able to make enough passive income from his business to quit his job at 37, which I'm super interested to learn about that part of it. So you've got a podcast, 4 books, Amazon bestsellers, I believe. Courses, coaching, it's available there. Now you kind of focus on helping other people quit their jobs by investing in real estate rental properties to live the life that they dream. You've been featured on over a dozen podcasts, as well as articles on Yahoo Finance, US News, and others. So I was impressed, man. When I kind of started digging in a little bit more, I'm like, wow, this guy, you were bigger than I thought, which is really cool. I mean, that's impressive. And it looks like you've got an awesome platform and a lot of great content to help other people achieve a life that they may at this point not think is possible. So welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you jumping on.
Thanks, Justin. You know, everybody, I won't say everybody, 90% of the people that meet me, I would say, my name's Dustin. And they would say, Justin? I'm like, no, it's Dustin, but you're close. And so we have a very, very similar name, but yeah, I always get called Justin. But I really appreciate you being on the show. I'm really excited to be sharing about how I quit my job at 37 years old and became successfully unemployed.
Yeah, I'm stoked. And for me, so I don't get called Dustin, but I get called like Jason all the time. I don't know, and there's no connection, but Jason happens all the time. But let's jump into it, Dustin. Let's tell us a little bit more about how you got started in real estate and in this journey, kind of what teed it off, and give us a summary of kind of that journey and where you're at today.
Yeah, so I've always been entrepreneurial. Just growing up, I had my stepdad and my biological dad. They were both entrepreneurs, had their own businesses. My mom just worked, just a normal everyday job, but I was always around people that had businesses. So I started my first paper route. That was my own, first business that I created, delivery papers when I was 13 years old, banging the newspapers off the garage doors and stuff. That was rather entertaining and fun for a little while. And then as I got older, I realized, I got my first job at Walmart. And I realized how much money, when I got my paycheck, I opened up the paycheck, I looked at it, I think I was going to make, I don't know, a couple $100. And I realized, oh my goodness, like $90. Like they took out half of my money in taxes or Social Security or whatever it might be. I was just blown away. I said, this working stuff is for the birds. So fast forward a long way from there. I started in college. I started really remembering how much I really loved being an entrepreneur. And so I started a number of different businesses, everything from graphic and website design business, skateboard manufacturing business. I even started a convenience store and a pizzeria. And all the while, I always knew that I liked real estate. My dad was a contractor building houses. I would work during the summer framing houses in the hot sun during the summer breaks from school. And I always liked houses. And I also realized after reading the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, which is a phenomenal book if you've never read it. Most people already have, but phenomenal book that showed me passive income. Basically, you work one time and you make money over and over again. And so from there, all these businesses that I've started, I bought one rental property. And from that one rental property, I did a lot of work initially to set it up, but I got a check every single month over and over and over and over again without doing a thing. And everything was like, each one was like $300 just from this one property. And I realized, man, if I get 10 properties, that's going to be $3,000 a month. If I get 20 and, just kept multiplying it out. Yeah. And so All those other businesses were a lot of work. I just kept working, it was work. This real estate investing, I buy one property one time and I never have to do anything else again. I have other people do the work for me and all that great stuff. And so that's where I'm at today, that I just kept buying property after property. Now, all the businesses that I create, they're solely passive income businesses. I don't worry about, brick and mortar location. I don't do anything that takes a lot of time.
Yeah.
I worry about building up passive income businesses, and rental properties is the best way to go.
Yeah. No, that's cool. So it sounds early on, working a job at Walmart, getting that check and being like, oh, man, there's got to be a better way to do this, right? Because you're like, holy, all this stuff coming out. Some of those things we don't even know what they are, right? Social Security at the younger age, like what is all this stuff? So it sounds like you kind of were keyed into that idea of, hey, there might be a better way to do this, but maybe the light, or you didn't realize what it was till later on in college, seeing that the ability to get passive income from a rental property. Even among starting all these other businesses, you bought a rental property, you had the interest, you probably understood that there's some power there of being a landlord, and bought that property, and so tell us more about that moment of like, you kind of explained it, but this passive income versus, running these other businesses, and tell us more about that moment where you're like, the light comes on, you're like, man, I got to do this differently.
Let me tell you a story that really got me over the edge. Now, with all these businesses and with the passive income that I have from my real estate, it was going well. I had a couple properties and just still grinding, and I still had a job. So I had businesses, I had real estate, I had my full-time job, I had my wife that was having kids. And so I got to tell you a story. It was right after my fourth child was born. So we have 4 kids, and my fourth child was born. And I'm working my normal day job. I'm working for the county government in California, one of the counties in there, doing regular IT work. And I'm just normal employee, just trying to, have a career and eventually retire. And I just was bought into that, I'm going to say it, lie or myth that you can just eventually just retire from someplace, because it's not, nowadays, it's not that attainable. It's so much harder to stay employed in one place. So we just had our 4th child. I went on paternity leave. That is where the dad stays home to help out with the mommy and help out with the kids. And so I come back from about a week to 2 weeks off from paternity leave. And I'm sitting back at my desk for a week. And on a Friday about 3:30 p.m., I get a call from my boss's secretary. So like the top dog's secretary said, "Hey, Dustin, would you please come to the boss's office?" And I said, "Sure," and hung up the phone. And I immediately start to think, why am I in trouble? Like, they never call me. Like, what's the deal here?
Yeah.
And I sit there and I pause for a second. I think, well, what has happened? And I remembered before I actually went on paternity leave, there was a little bit of rumors, a little bit of rumbling that there may be layoffs. And I thought, from that, when I heard that initially, I was like, no, I got I got like 12 or 15 years seniority. There's not gonna be any problems for me.
Yeah.
While I'm back, literally like 4 days back from having paternity leave, I'm walking, I get up from my desk. I'm starting to get a little nervous, but I'm like, no, it has to be okay. I start walking down the long hallway to my boss's office. Now, it's not that long, but it felt longer and longer every single step that I took, because I started thinking about my kids. I have 4 kids now. My wife, she stays home with the kids. She doesn't work. And as I walk, each step feels like they're lead bricks. Like my feet get full of lead and just, I can't take the next step. But eventually I get there. I turn the corner to where my boss's office is. And I look at the secretary. The boss's door is closed. And she looks at me and says, "Dustin, would you please have a seat?" And she says this rather sheepishly. And I'm like, this is interesting, because she's usually very bubbly and very nice. And she's looking at me consoling, because she knows what's going on. And I have no clue. She can't tell me. And so I sit down and I feel like I'm sitting in this huge, huge room in a tiny, tiny chair. I just feel like a little person. And as I sit there, I start thinking of, oh my goodness, this might be the time that I get laid off. Like, I work at the government. Who gets laid off at the government?
Yeah.
And as I'm sitting there, my hands start to get all clammy. I start to sweat, because I think, how am I going to provide for my kids? Am I a failure as a father, a failure as a husband? Because I'm getting laid off. I've worked so hard to get to where I'm at. Is it all going to come down? And the door opens up to my boss's office, and out walks a lady with a piece of paper in her hand. She's noticeably distraught, noticeably upset.
Yeah.
She's not crying, but you could tell her world is just rocked. And my boss says, Dustin, would you come in? I go into his office and I get laid off. He hands me a piece of paper and says, you have 2 more weeks. We don't have any money, or they were running out of money. Your seniority, you don't have enough, or something like that.
Yeah.
You're getting laid off. And I'm sitting there looking at that piece of paper, just shocked. I built, 15 years working here. And who gets laid off with the government? Like, nobody does. Or who gets fired like, it's so hard to get fired from the government, but I did. I'm the one person that actually did of a couple. But as I'm walking back to my desk, I'm realizing, okay, my whole life I've been gearing up for something like this. I've been building my, direction, or building my ladder, putting my ladder against a house or a building that I'm trying to go this way to a career. And I'm realizing that was the wrong place. What I need to do is actually build my businesses. I need to go gung ho in my investing in my businesses. And so as I'm walking back to my desk, I pause at my desk. I sit down. I said, you know what? You have 2 minutes to sulk, or 2 minutes to get just to be down, feel down, feel sorry for yourself. So after 2 minutes, I said, okay, that's done. You have 2 jobs. Number 1, you need to get another job to pay for food and your mortgage and everything for your family. So I worked hard to get a job. I was blessed to find a job in the same county in another department. So I quickly got another job without even getting laid off. So that was a huge blessing.
Wow.
But the second thing that I woke up and I realized, no longer would anybody ever hear from me if somebody says, well, Dustin, what do you do? I used to always say, well, I work at the county government. I do IT work for that county government. No longer would I ever say that. I changed my identity, or I put my worth in myself. I give myself my worth. It comes from my God. It comes from my wife. It comes from my kids. It comes from myself. And so now I'm realizing I'm an investor. I knew I was always an investor. I just never put a stamp on it saying this is what I am. And so now from that day forward, if anybody asked me what I did, I said, I am a real estate investor. And they said, well, do you make all your money from there? I'm like, no, like I have a part-time job that pays me all the money that I get from that. Like I'm a full-time investor with a part-time job. It just so happens that 100% of my money comes from the part-time job, but my mentality was I am an investor. And as I did that, day after day, after I kept telling more and more people that I was an investor, more opportunity came up. More opportunities just exploded because people realized, hey, Dustin's an investor. Maybe I want to invest with him, or I want to sell him a property, or I want to rent from him, whatever it might be. I just was able to grow my business over and over again. And so because of that, I want to tell everybody here that's listening to this, your worth does not come from your job. I call it JOB, your just over broke job. Yep. It doesn't come from that. It comes from internally inside of you. What you display to the world is your worth. So I started telling everybody, I'm an investor. So whatever you're doing in your life that you are now, realize you're no longer your job. You are now whatever it is. For me, it was an investor. And so quickly fast forward to say, after 8 years of buying property after property, sacrificing, I had 30 plus properties. I literally didn't have to work anymore. And remember that long hallway walk where my feet got heavier and heavier? Well, the last day that I gave my bosses my 2 weeks notice, and my last day that I was leaving, I got up at like 12 o'clock. I said, okay, I can't take it anymore. Like, I'm leaving. I'm done. I gave them enough notice and I was done. I walked to my car. It was about a 2-block walk to my car. It was like I was walking on clouds, going from lead bricks to now I'm walking on clouds. It was the best day, next to my kids being born and being married and all that. It was amazing. So fast forward to now, I literally don't have to have a job. I'm blessed to be able to have properties and have things paid for, just like my house and everything. I don't have to worry about things because I invest in passive income where it works rather than me working.
That's an awesome story. Lots of things. There's a lot of things I want to ask you about that, but thank you for sharing that. That is super inspirational for me, and I hope to all of our listeners too. But so you mentioned something in there, the lie or the myth, or just, and I think you're referring to that, just what's socially acceptable right now, or what we're trained to do is to go to school, go to college, and go get a job, right? And there's this and then you do that till you're 65, 68, whatever it is, and then you're supposed to retire on whatever 401k or IRA that you've kind of funneled money into over the year, and hopefully there's an exciting amount of money there and you can have a great life, but you're 65 or whatever. And so I've always from a very young age, I've challenged that idea. I had an uncle that retired, when he was like 42, and I'm like, whoa, that's way different than what everybody else is doing. And I was like 10 or 11, but I didn't realize what all was going on there. But early on in my life, I'm like, I want to do that because he seems like he's walking on clouds, and he always seems super upbeat. He doesn't seem so stressed out as everybody else I see coming home from the factory or whatever. And so early on, I knew there was something wrong with that whole model. But so tell me more about that. Like what's going on? Like, why is that such a thing? And why aren't more people realizing that that's not what they want? Even you, sorry, I'm going on here, but even you knew deep down you're an entrepreneur and you're an investor. How did you end up still in that government job? Like, I think that happens to a lot of people, even though they know that that's not really where they ultimately should be.
We are literally taught that almost from birth. Like basically, as soon as you go to preschool, you're literally taught that. So preschool all the way through elementary, junior high, high school, and college, you're literally ingrained in that. And not saying that college and high school is bad for everybody. I personally, my kids are not going to go to college. In fact, we homeschool our kids. I can teach my kids how to make so much more money than any other university or high school or whatever it might be. I could teach them how to do that personally. Plus, I could teach them how to actually be smart. So what I realized was that it's literally taught and ingrained in you. So what do you do when you go to school? You learn what they want you to learn. Not saying it's bad, just saying this is what the process is. You learn what they want you to learn. Then you take a test, and then you get a grade. And that grade is basically like your pay. So
Yeah.
you're working hard to get that good grade on that test. And then you eventually get a piece of paper that tells you, hey, I achieved this. Somebody now hire me. You tell me what to do. I will do it. And then you give me money. It's the same thing over and over again. We're just really taught that. And it wasn't until I realized that is not the only way to live. Like, you can make money other ways. And once I realized that, my mind was like blown. I was like, oh my goodness. And then when I bought that first rental property, that makes me, I want to say it was like $380 a month in passive income. It was something right around there. And I thought, I'm looking at the check from my property manager. Remember, I didn't do any work. In fact, out of all the 30 plus properties that I own now, I only work 30 minutes a month, not a week, not a day, 30 minutes a month. And that's because I just look at my statement, make sure that everything's going fine and expenses are lining up, and then put it away. And I don't even worry about it because and here's a key thing about investing in real estate. A lot of people who are trying to coach you or teach you how to invest in real estate, they'll say, you just got to analyze the numbers. And if the numbers work right, then buy the property. I completely think you're way ahead, or you're putting the cart before the horse. The first thing that you need to do is build the business first. And that's why I'm able to literally do whatever I want. I travel the world with my family. We went through 6 weeks in Japan. Right when I quit my job, we went to Japan for 6 weeks, traveled all like 1,500 miles, driving around the entire island of Japan, which was amazing. The year after that, we went to Europe for 6 weeks. We went to 11 different countries on a huge, field trip with my family. And then last year in 2019, we went on the East Coast for a 4-week trip, just from Florida, drove all the way up to Washington, D.C. and New York. We just love to travel. That's what we like to spend our money on.
Yeah.
But I don't have to do anything with my businesses because I made it so that other people do the work. Now, I pay them well. Don't get me wrong. I pay them well. They get paid very well. But I don't do any work because the properties do the work. The tenants pay for the properties. And so here's a quick, just really, really quick understanding of how to run the numbers. So running the numbers is basically you get all your expenses, you line them all up, and your expenses are usually fixed. So you add up all your expenses, and then you take your income, whatever your rent is. So if your expenses are $800, your income, let's say it's $1,100, then that difference right there is $300. That's passive income. Now, here's a great thing with rental properties, why I love rental properties. I literally do not pay my property taxes. I do not pay my insurance. I don't pay my repairs. I don't pay my property manager. I don't pay any of that stuff. My tenants pay for all of that. And then I make money on top of that. That's when I say all the expenses lined up. Those are all the expenses. I don't do anything with that as far as putting money out of my pocket. What I do, though, is I get money coming back in my pocket. So going back to your question about why we are ingrained or why I got stuck in a trap is just because that's what we're taught. But it's getting out and like the Money Maven, listening to Money Maven, figuring out how to actually make money outside of working for a job. There's so many ways to do that. And That's a big reason why I started a podcast called the Successfully Unemployed podcast. And it's really just a passion project because there are so many different ways, not just real estate, not just like online blogging or podcasting, but there's hundreds and hundreds of ways. I already have like 60 episodes out where I interviewed different entrepreneurs who have found a way to make money without working a job. That's my whole goal, is to show people it's so possible to not work 40 years of your life, 40 hours a week, and then retire on 40% of your pay when you're like 65 or 70 years old, and then not have any life left. Let's retire so much earlier. And that's things like the Money Maven is going to help you to do that.
Yeah, no, that's awesome. And I think the whole model of so go through schooling, which again, I went to college. I got 2 bachelor's degrees, entrepreneurship and Spanish. And, I learned a lot, and that was super valuable to me. I'm not saying that we don't need to go to college anymore, but I do think our mindset, and this is what a little bit about what the project is about, is we need to shift our mindset of like you said, that going through that process and getting a job is the only way to make money, because it's not. Our schooling and a lot of our systems are geared towards teaching people a certain skill so they can go get a job in a certain field. And that's fine, especially if the doctors and lawyers, they need those certain skills. But I think it's a slightly antiquated way to do it. It works really well. Whatever, early 1900s, that's what we did, right? We went and we learned how to go be, build cars or whatever, right? Like we would go get those skills, we would go get that job, and that was the model. But I think nowadays in this today's age, there are so many other ways to make money, and we don't have to follow that process, and we don't have to follow the process of spending our life working and then having a little bit left. I think that we can get way more out of life early on. We can maximize and live our life intentionally way early on. We just have to build and design the life that we want. There's really no limits. And I love that. Successfully Unemployed. I think that's such a great line, a great for a t-shirt. I love the t-shirt. And I love those lessons that you're sharing with us. That's awesome.
Thanks, man. And one thing I want to add, that I do think that college there's a good amount of people that should go to college, but I 100% disagree with how ridiculously expensive college is. There's absolutely no reason why college should be as expensive as it is. So that being said, my kids, I'm literally teaching them how to invest in real estate myself, create online businesses and all that. So I'm literally teaching them how to do that. And if it's going to cost, let's say a minimum, and we all understand if you're going to go to college for 4 years, you're probably going to spend at least $50,000 or more total. I mean, it could get up to $100,000 or more.
Yeah.
It gets to be really ridiculous. So my kids, usually, and a parent is supposed to, that's what they say, get a savings account so you can put money away, sock away every single year to pay for your kids' college. Like, why would I do that? Why wouldn't I give them $50,000 each to go buy a house so that they can make passive income and then do that over and over again? I literally teach people how to buy properties. And remember, the first thing that I said, it's not running the numbers when you buy a property, it's setting up the business so that it runs on your own. You got to get property managers, contractors, realtors, inspectors, plumbers, roofers. You got to get all these people that are working in the business. And that's what I'm teaching my students at Master of Passive Income, as well as my kids, because it's absolutely possible. It's literally it's step by step. If you do X, Y, and Z, you follow these precautions that I give you, more than likely you're going to be very successful. And what's great is if my kids buy one property that makes $250 or more, that's the bare minimum that we buy for each property, is in passive income. If I teach them how to do that one time, I basically teach them how to fish, and then they can continually fish over and over again. So one house that makes you $250 a month, that's $3,000 a year. Imagine getting a $3,000 a year raise. You'd be like, yes, sir, of course I'd love that. Yeah. But well, 10 properties is $2,500 a month and $30,000 in 1 year. And so, 20 properties, $60,000 a year. You just keep multiplying it over and over again. And that's why I love real estate. And it's not as hard as people might think. It's really, like I said, add up all your expenses, minus your income, and that's your profit. But you do have to make sure you set up the business first. Let me give you a quick example of what I mean by setting up the business. If you're going to start a convenience store, most people would know what a convenience store is. A convenience store, you set up the business first. You're not going to just open up the doors, not have anything in there, but put a box of chocolate on the ground, box of chocolate bars on the ground. You're not going to do that and and have a successful business. What you're going to do is you're going to get the gondolas or the shelving units you put the candy bars on. You're going to get the countertops, the fountain machines, the cold storage, the cash registers, the employees, the bank accounts.
Yeah.
Before you get any inventory in the business, as you do that, you build the business. Once the business is ready, that's when you buy the inventory. That's when you put the inventory into the business. And same thing with real estate. Because I invest all over the country. I have students that invest all over the country. Right now, the Midwest, down in the Southeast and Carolinas and Floridas, those are great places. You can still buy houses for $60,000 and make $250 or more in passive income. And I can definitely show you to do that. But what you do is you build the entire business first. Then every piece of property that you have is another piece of inventory that you're putting into the business, just like another candy bar, another box of this or that or the other. It's the same thing. We view it as inventory. So I basically have 30 pieces of inventory in all the businesses that I have all over. So as you do that, you can literally scale the business because you have other people doing the work for you. Does that make sense?
Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. That's perfect. Getting kind of the vehicle all built, ready to go, and then being able to shove those pieces of real estate in there, that's perfect. And I definitely agree with that. That the team members, getting the people that can do the work that you don't want to have to do, right? You don't want to have to go do the rehab. At least I don't. I'm no good at it anyway, so I have a contractor, right? So yeah, I think that's exactly right. What is the majority, really quickly? You're investing for cash flow. Are you burring these properties, or are you just, how are you getting these properties, and what's your model?
I love that question. It's everything, all the above. And so most people realize that you can buy a house to live in. You get a realtor and a mortgage broker and you put them together and you get a house. You go live in it. And then people think, okay, I'm going to go ahead and buy a rental property, find a realtor and a mortgage broker and put them together and buy a rental property. That's just one of dozens and dozens, if not hundreds of ways to fund, find, and actually buy these properties. Everything from, more advanced strategies. One thing, I'll jump right to a quick advanced strategy. I've even bought houses with a credit card. I did a cash out advance with a credit card, made sure all the numbers were going to pay off with the rents. Remember, I don't pay the interest and the fees. My tenants do. Remember that. And so I use those credit cards to buy. I love doing the BRRRR strategy, the buy, rehab, refund. I'm drawing a blank. So you buy, then you rehab, then you rent out the property, then you refinance the property, then you repeat it all over again. That's the BRRR. So basically, I've done that countless times. I even refinanced my personal house dozens of times, pulled cash out to buy properties. I've used private loans. I've used partners. I've had what's it called? Hard money. I've used hard money. There's so many different ways. And I've also found properties through realtors, through private investors, through wholesalers, through other people that are just selling their properties, through letters, or the yellow letters or the postcards. There's so many different ways to do this business. Now, the interesting thing is, as I got started, I just had to figure these out one by one. And as I figured them out, I figured, okay, this works. Let me leave this in the business. If this didn't work, like if I lost money doing it this way, I pull it out. I don't do it anymore. I kid you not, I probably lost at least 20 or 30, 40, $50,000 doing this business wrong, figuring out how to do it right. And then now I don't do those things. So now all my students are learning from my mistakes. So all that to say, there's so many ways to find and fund these properties. I even have one student particularly, he has in 6 months already has 5 units. So he has, I think, 3 total properties, 2 are duplexes, 1 is a single family home, but in 6 months, and he is just rocking and rolling, and he's not using his own money. He's utilizing other people's money, which is a great way to go.
That's awesome. Well, you're definitely showing people how it's done, then. That's awesome. And I love that you're it sounds like you've experimented or have done some of all of it. So you're very well-rounded as far as a coach and an investor. And I'm learning, I should have learned this earlier on, but as I try to make a transition from single family into more multifamily syndication and stuff like that, I'm picking up a mentor to help me out with that. And I wish I would have done that way earlier on, because I messed up my first deal. I'll just be honest with you. I messed up my first deal.
We all do.
Made a few mistakes, and, picking the contractor, and just stuff that I probably knew better. But I was such in a hurry, and I didn't have anybody to kind of hold me accountable and say, hey, hold on, like, let's think about this a little bit. I made a couple mistakes there that made my deal not as good as it could. My first deal is not as good as it could have been. And so I definitely, I'm a believer in having a mentor. And I know it sounds silly because you're like, I can do this myself. We all try and be tough about it, but it expedites, it speeds up the process, and it shelters you a little bit from making some mistakes, but you still learn the lessons, which is super valuable.
Not just a little bit, a lot. Like I said, I've lost at least 20, 30, 40, $50,000 doing things the wrong way in the entirety of my business. But and I applaud you for knowing or realizing that having a mentor is absolutely going to save you money as well as make you money. See, I have students that continue with me, even though they know the business, they continue with me, keep having me be their mentor and be their coach, because I either save them 10 times how much they pay me in coaching, or make them that much money. And so they're realizing, man, like I'll give you an example. One of my students, the property was worth $110,000, but I noticed everything from the price drops and all this sort of stuff. I thought, you know what? It looks like we can have them come down in equity, or we can capture some equity if we pay less. On top of that, in order for us to do this right, remember, we try for $250 a month in passive income. If we're going to do this right, we need to offer even lower. And the reason why is because if we pay it too high, our passive income gets shrunk and we don't have any passive income. So I said, let's do this. I want you to be in this property no more than $80,000. Like, it's going to be a stretch, but I want you to go no more than 80, maybe $82,000. That's total all in. That's what I want for you. You're asking $110,000. I said, let's do this. It's going to be uncomfortable, but we have to just put an offer for $74,000. And he's like, what? I'm like, yes, put an offer for $74,000. And he swallowed, gulped, and said, okay. He put an offer, kid you not. They replied and countered saying $78,000. And we're like, okay. So if you've ever played poker, you get your cards, right? You put the cards facing you so nobody else can see your cards. They literally turned their cards around and showed me exactly what they were doing. I was like, okay, I know what they're doing. All right, I know where they're at. We got them down to $76,000 plus paying like the fixing a roof. Like, the roof was also having a problem. Oh, wow. We had them pay for the roof too. So all that to say, he captured almost $40,000 in equity right then and there. It dwarfs how much he pays me for coaching. So if you get a coach, if you get somebody that knows what they're doing, they're going to make you enough money or save you enough money, go 10 times over what you're paying them.
Yeah, hands down. I definitely can say that. I mean, it feels like you're asking for help, but you got to just humble yourself and take what you just said there. You're going to save, if you give a coach, whatever, a few $1,000, first deal, as we just saw, you're going to get that money back in the avoided mistakes and just extra income, extra profit on those deals. So mentorship, I'm becoming a believer for sure. This is awesome. I love where we're going with this. A couple other questions. So what, I'm sure that there were some tough times, there were some difficult moments in your transition and in your journey to where you are now. How did you power through those? Like, how did you get through that? And I know some of our other listeners out there that are trying to get started, trying to get the motor going. And I'm sure they have days where they're like, you know what, I'm just going to go back to my job, or I'm just going to stick it out at my job. I'm just going to give it more effort at my 9 to 5. Like, how did you power through those difficult moments and the different obstacles?
So I know how I did, but let me tell you how majority of my students, how I get them to power through those, because that's maybe a little more applicable.
Sure.
But for me, I'm just literally internally self-driven. If I see a goal, I just can't stop. It's just inside of me, but not everybody's like that. Yeah. And so what helps all of my students is getting them their first quick win. Usually most investors are like, man, I want to hit a home run, or I want to get a grand slam on this first property. Like, it has to be perfect in order for me to buy it. I'm like, no, it doesn't have to be perfect, but you do have to hit certain criteria. Number one, $250 minimum in passive income. Number two, you have to make sure you have a business set up. Like, there are certain things we have to do to make sure that you're going to make money. let's just get a single. A single would be making $250 or more in passive income. That's including repairs, expenses, vacancy factor. It's literally including everything that you could think of, $250 on top of that. Getting that first quick win, and it's going to be work. Don't get me wrong. It is work. And I tell everybody, this is not a get rich plan or a scheme. This is not a get rich scheme at all. In fact, it took me 7 years to eventually get 19 properties to be able to quit my job. And then, obviously grow to 30 plus properties now, just keep growing after that. But the first thing you need to do, make sure you get a property, building the business first, but getting a property, getting that first quick win where you are making $250 or more, because you're going to learn as you go. You're going to learn so much as you go. And on top of that, once you have that business built, it's just like building a convenience store and putting another piece of inventory. You just need to make sure you have the down payment or have the financing to be able to buy the next piece of inventory. Then you're able to just continually grow that business. So my strongest suggestion is definitely, this goes above and beyond saying education, getting a mentor, getting somebody showing you how to do it, showing you how they failed so you don't have to fail just like that. On top of that, getting that first win. And then, because like I said, remember, I said, I got that first paycheck, or no, it's not a paycheck, passive income check, rental check of like $380. That was my motivation. I said, my goodness, if I can get 10 of these, that's $3,800 a month. If I can get 20, and I just saw the motivation there. So getting that quick, I guess it's the same for me. That quick win got me to realize it is absolutely possible. And then I just couldn't stop until I got all of my properties to eventually quit my job.
Yeah, that's perfect. So proving that concept with that first deal, and I definitely self-sabotaged some of my first, as I was analyzing my first deals, I would always find something wrong with them. Like, yeah, that's not perfect. I can't do that one. But I needed somebody to say, hey, you know what? You're right. It's not perfect, but the metrics of it, make it a deal, go get that deal. And let's get the first one out of the way, because it's the hardest one.
It is
the first one not only helps prove the system, it proves to you that it works. And it also, it's the one thing that can truly shift your mindset around real estate or whatever it is that you're doing passively to finally make that, turn the lights on and start and keep you motivated going forward. I love that.
And I'll tell you, out of all the 30 plus properties that I've owned, I would say out of all of them, maybe one or two are perfect. The other ones are absolutely not. Like they were perfect deals, the right amount of money, the right, used a credit card or whatever it might be. They were the perfect deals, making me the most money, utilizing the least amount of money in my pocket, really good properties.
Yeah.
They're very far and few between. The other ones, as long as we're hitting singles and doubles, and remember, the minimum's $250 or more in passive income. As long as we're doing that, we're chipping it away, we're getting better and better. But here's the thing, done is better than perfect. I'm absolutely not a perfectionist. As long as I get it done with my, criteria in place to make sure I'm making money, as long as I'm able to do that, I'm moving forward. And each step forward is a step forward in the right direction. So yeah, absolutely. Out of all the properties, not a single one of them, maybe two out of all of them are perfect. Meaning I could not have had anything better. But I also will say one other thing on top of that. All the 30 plus properties I own, I've literally only seen one of them before I bought the property. And I've only seen two total out of all of them. I saw one in Texas. I was actually in the area in Texas. And so I have Ohio, Texas, and Arizona. And I was in the area and like, oh, I got a property right over here. Let's just go check it out. So we drove it and checked it out. But literally, I never look at the areas anymore. I trust the people as I build the business. And so that's how so many people are able to build a business, not where they live, but far, far away, because we trust the people that we hire the right people, but we build the business first. So all that to say, yeah, absolutely. Just getting that one step and then next step and then just keep moving forward.
Exactly. Yeah. I think I've only seen one of my properties too. And if you want to get some funny looks at a party, tell people that you're buying houses without actually walking through them. Man, that will get you funny looks all the time.
I love that. I love it. Cause you're right. They're like, well, and the reason why I started Master Passive Income, I started back in 2015, 2016. I was quitting my job and I was like, I'm a driven person. I've always been entrepreneurial. I've always had something to do, but I literally don't do anything. I just don't do anything with my time. And I realized I have to do something. And as I was telling somebody or anybody, friends, family members, coworkers, whatever, well, yeah, I'm quitting my job. And they said, well, how are you quitting your job? I'm like, well, I invest in rental properties. So the first question is, how are you quitting your job? The second question, almost every single time after that, can you show me? Can you show me how to do it? And
Yeah.
so after teaching, one after one after one, great questions. I personally, I mean, I enjoy talking about it. It's a lot of fun. I love educating people how to do it. And then I realized there's got to be a better way, because teaching people just like one-on-one from the beginning to the end, it was so much work. And then I found podcasting and the online courses and the my blog, my articles. Like, I'm teaching so many more people, showing them the light in a bigger scale.
Yeah.
And the majority of it's free. Like, only if they want coaching do they come to me, but
Yeah.
the majority of it's all
Yeah.
free. And over time, I realized this is just fun. I get to talk to great people like you, Justin, and just get to have a great time
Yeah.
helping people learn how to quit that just over broke job.
No, that's perfect. Yeah. There's so much content out there that not knowing how to do this should never be an excuse, because if you search iTunes, there are so many podcasts talking about just what we're talking about, getting started in real estate, amassing that passive income, getting to a point where you can step away from your job. Like, it's all out there, and 95% of it's free. If you want to go deep and you want to go fast and you want to hedge against some mistakes, then you get a mentor or hire a coach. But the basics and the foundation of it, it's out there for very low cost, if not free.
Absolutely.
So what are some other things? And I think you wrote one of your 4 books is about this, but I can't remember what it's called. Something about 16 or 19 things you need to be thinking about before quitting your job. So what are we not talking about here? What are some other things that somebody needs to be considering when they're setting a goal? Hey, I'm gonna step away from my 9 to 5 in 2 years or whatever. And sometimes all we think about, okay, how much passive income do I need to offset my paycheck? What are some other things that they need to be thinking about to be ready for?
Yeah. So it was 16 lessons that I learned as I was quitting my job. And I just came up with the title, Successfully Unemployed. So if you're watching this on YouTube, you could even see I have the logo right up there in the corner of my screen here. I love just that term. It's just, whenever I tell anybody I'm successfully unemployed, they kind of take a second look at me and say, wait, you're unemployed and you're happy about it? I'm like, yes, I am, because I don't have to work.
Yeah.
So in the book, Successfully Unemployed, I talk about the 16 lessons that I learned as I was quitting my job. Now, this is like the second or the follow-up to my first book, which is How to Quit Your Job with Rental Properties. That teaches you how to do it. But I was literally about to quit my job, and I realized, okay, what am I going to do about health insurance? What am I going to do about my vacation and sick time? What am I going to do about, my family, making sure that we have enough money coming in? How am I getting multiple streams of income? The biggest thing that I would strongly recommend is there's 2 different thoughts that go together. Number one would be you have different streams of income. They call them streams of income, streams of passive income. Like say you write a book and you make a little bit of income from there, or you have a podcast, make a little bit of income, or you have a course, you make a little bit of income. You have a rental property, you make a little bit of income. So those are what I'm talking about, having streams of income. So multiple streams of income, but I'm a huge proponent of having one river of income with other streams coming into it. And so my river, all my money that I make from Master Passive Income, Successfully Unemployed, all the money that I make online, it literally goes back into real estate, because that's where I make my money. Like, I just have fun with everything online because it's fun. I don't need to do any of that. I literally just play video games or go fishing or hunting or do whatever I want. But it's just, I love helping people. And so what I've learned is that, number one, you need a river of income. So figure out what is the river that's going to be coming in. And then number 2, get more passive streams of income in whatever way that could be. Because honestly, money fixes just about every single issue that can come up in your life. Like if you have, a doctor bill. Well, a doctor bill can get fixed if you have money. Or your car breaks down. You can, instead of buying the car that you need, you can buy the car that you want because you have extra money. What I'm trying to say is, the biggest lesson I learned is definitely have multiple streams of income and one big river of money coming in.
Yeah. So real estate can be that river. And what I believe that allows you to do is now go out and do what you're passionate about. If maybe you like photography and you want to travel the world and take pictures for National Geographic or something, well, now you've got your income, and now your job, I guess, or your passion job doesn't you don't do it to make money because that's taken care of. Now you go do it because you're fun. And if it makes you money, that's awesome. But, and I love the idea of telling my kids, I've got 4 kids, all under the age of 8. I love the idea of telling my kids, hey, go to college, but go to college and learn about something that you're super excited about. If it's history, great. If it's, whatever, if it's photography, if it's music, some of those things that you might go and get a degree in music, but it may or may not end up ever providing for you and the family. But if you have real estate, taking care of that thing, that problem, providing for yourself and your family, now you can go do whatever you want. And if that makes you money too, that's great. But if not, no big deal. But now you can spend your life. We only get one. You can spend your life doing what it is that makes you happy and what you're passionate about. That's what I love about this I'm successfully unemployed thing, this retiring early, or just not even calling it retired, just start doing design your life the way you want it and use real estate as that building block.
Yeah, a lot of people would ask me, okay, so you're retired, right? I'm like, yeah, I mean, technically, yeah, I just don't work, but I'm not retired where I don't do anything. Like, I am definitely not that. That's why I consider myself unemployed. I'm totally unemployed, but that's employing is getting active income. I get passive income. I don't want to work an hour and get paid for that hour.
Yeah.
And so what I love is being unemployed and saying, instead of being retired, because retired has a connotation like I'm not going to do anything, I'm sitting on my butt all day or whatever, that's not me. In fact, I just talked to my wife the other day, and she knows me very well. And I said, hey, do you think if I'm like 70 years old, would I ever stop like working or podcasting or teaching or what? And she goes, no, you won't. Just how you are. So that's just me internally, but not everybody's like that. Other people, they just might want to be able to not do anything and read a book all day. You can, if you have money coming in, you don't have to worry about it. And that's what the passive income. And you said something, Justin, a little bit ago, talking about designing your life around you, what you desire, as opposed to around your job. Now, I moved from California. I grew up in California, at Fresno, California, and I moved from there to Phoenix, Arizona about 3.5 years ago. And I didn't have to work there anymore. So I realized, well, shoot, why am I still here? Like, my parents had passed away, so I didn't really need to be there. My biological dad is basically retired. He can come visit whenever we want. But let's move to Arizona. It's cheaper, laws are better, and so let's just do that. I wasn't tied down to my job. I wasn't locked down. Remember, my identity is no longer in my job. My identity is me being a real estate investor and with my family, with my God. And so we moved, and then now I literally can live anywhere I want. I'm really just kind of figuring out where we want to live next. It might be Idaho, Wyoming. We're looking at Montana, just being beautiful up there, has beautiful hunting and mountains and all that sort of stuff. But we're independent, and we are now designing our life to fit us, as opposed to, man, I have to stay here because I'm working. That's if anybody can realize that, they can get out of working until they're 65 or 70 years old. They can get out when they're 55, 45, 35, or even 25. It's absolutely possible if you just take the one like river of income, or you figure out one way to do it and keep going with it until it takes over your income and covers your expenses, then you're good to go.
That's so awesome. That's why I've tried to stray away from the phrase retire early, because I'm with you. I don't want to go out to pasture early and just sit around. Like that's not what I'm trying to accomplish. I just want to live my life and do what I want and not be constrained by either time or money. It blows me away when I have conversations with people and I'm like, hey, yeah, what do you do for work? Okay, I do this. What do you do? What do you like to do? Well, I used to go hunting, or I used to go fishing a lot, or I used to snowboard. I've even been guilty of this. I used to snowboard a ton. And with my career, I'm in the solar sales industry still, trying to get out of that. But yeah, so they would say stuff like, well, yeah, I got my job and this is what I love to do, but I don't do it anymore because of my job. And I'm like, well, wait, like, am I the only one that sees the problem with that? Like, let's figure it out. Let's figure out how we can change that equation to something where we do what we want and we support it by something that makes us money, not we have to do this thing because it makes us money and we don't get any time for anything else. I just think that's we've got to shift that mentality, that mindset that's in the general population, the general way we think, because when people are happier, people have more money, more good can happen. I mean, people can help others when you're financially stable, you're in a good place, you've got time. I mean, how many of us have blown past somebody that needed help on the freeway because we're like in a hurry to get to wherever, and I just think more good can come from all of us being financially independent and free of time and money.
Wholeheartedly agree, man.
Yeah, I love your message. I love what you're doing. Let's jump into a few more questions here, and then we'll wrap up. So what do you think separates the people that jump into, whether it's real estate or anything they're passionate about? What separates from those people that jump in, the people that succeed, from the people that give up or don't make it?
So I find that if you're diligent and you're persistent, I think persistence does so much to somebody. Obviously, patience, you have to have that to be able to wait for good things that come. Delayed gratification is fantastic, but it's really persistence. It's the ones that actually give up, the ones that say, you know what, it's too hard, or I just can't do it, or whatever it might be, just making excuses, sadly. Those are the ones that actually don't make it because they're not persistent to get through it. Now, I made a lot of mistakes doing this real estate business, made lots and lots of them. If I would have given up at any one of them, I'll give you an example. I had about 3 to 4 properties with one property manager. I just started, bought 2 or 3 properties, and then I had my 4th one. And then my one property manager I didn't even know what I was doing. I was just basically starting out, had one property manager. She started stealing from me and started getting these phantom expenses like, oh, here's a main line coming into the house. They had to be entirely replaced. I didn't approve it. It was like $1,000 job. And my check was less $1,000. I'm like, what is going on here? She was stealing from me. Long story short, if I would have said, you know what, this is not going to work out, I'm going to give up right now. She's stealing from me. Let me just sell these and just cut bait and run. I would literally not be here where I'm at today. And because of persistence, because of pushing through and realizing what I need to do is not give up on what I know works, even though there's some setbacks. If you do that, you're able to push through, figure out what went wrong. Don't do that thing that went wrong again. Fix it, make it right, and you won't have that happen again. So being persistent is the best way to go.
Perfect. I love that. Thank you. What's a favorite business book, real estate book, self-help book? What's a favorite book that you feel like is your favorite and one that you would recommend to others?
So there's a number of great ones that I love, and I've already said one, but I'll give you another one. So the first one, obviously, that I've already said that I really love is Rich Dad Poor Dad. Fantastic book. The next book that I think is everybody should read this book. It's a phenomenal book. It's called The Richest Man in Babylon by George S. Clausen. Fantastic, just like literally phenomenal book. It goes very well with Rich Dad Poor Dad. It helps you. And what's really great is written back like, I don't know, 40, 50 years ago, maybe even 60, 70 years ago, a long time ago, but it's written in a fiction format, but it teaches you principles, financial principles, how to be wealthy, how to have passive income and all this great stuff in a story. So you're reading a story that helps you to like apply, oh man, this character did this didn't work, I should not do this, or this did work, I should do this. Phenomenal book, Richest Man in Babylon.
I agree. Great book. So when you're not, you kind of already mentioned this a little bit, but when you're not, crushing your businesses here, what else do you like to do? What are you passionate about?
I love Olympic lifting. That's what you do with snatch and clean and jerk. I love doing that. I used to do CrossFit a lot for like 4 or 5 years, and then realized that I like doing mostly the Olympic lifts. I still do some CrossFit. So that's on a day-to-day, like 5 days a week, I go exercise. I just really enjoy doing that. But I love being with my wife. My wife's phenomenal. I absolutely love her. Love my kids. We homeschool, or I take that back. My wife has the hard job of homeschooling the kids. I have the easy job of making money. And so she has the hard job, but I'm here at home. I get to be with my kids. I get to be with my wife. I love that. We absolutely love to travel. We love traveling all over the place. Like I already told you, where we went to, 6 and 4 week trips, but I also love hunting. I just really enjoy deer hunting and elk hunting. It's enjoyable. I love the actual hunting process, but I love bringing the meat home. That's food for us and our family. It's just everything about hunting fishing is great. I love being outdoors. Being in Arizona is fantastic because you're able to be outdoors almost every single day of the year. That's what we do as a family. We do a lot of camping, traveling, and all that good stuff.
We could have a whole nother episode just talking about hunting and fishing, I bet.
Yes, I bet we could.
Yeah. Good. And so, a couple other questions here. What is your why? What's the reason that you're doing all this? I know we've kind of covered a little bit, but put it in a sentence or two for us.
So there was, back when I first started investing in real estate, back when I first was starting my business, my why was to spend more time with my wife, with my kids. My why was to basically be independent. I'm a very independent person. Just don't tell me what to do. I won't tell you what to do. I just want to be independent. So that was my big why. But my goal, what I gave myself, I said, okay, when I was 27 years old, I think is when I really made a decision. It's time to start being an investor. And at 27 years old, I said, okay, I'm going to give myself 10 years. My 10 years, by then, I'm either going to have enough money to quit my job from my income, from my businesses or real estate, or I'm just going to quit and have to, just jump in the deep end.
Yeah.
So my why was to be independent. And the goal was to quit my job in 10 years or less. And I think it was like 9, just as I got to 9 years, I was like, man, why am I still working here? I got plenty of money coming in. This is so horrible. Even though I was making $75,000 a year, I was losing money working there. So I stopped there, did all my own. I'm so much more happy now, but that's my why. But now shifting a little bit now, my new why, because the goal was to quit my job. Obviously the why is still to be with my family, be independent. But my new why is to help as many people as possible to realize this vision of quitting that job, stop living just over broke, and really being financially independent so you never have to worry about working that job again.
Yeah, that's awesome. I appreciate that. Man, I have really loved the content that we've got here. I feel inspired. I've learned a lot. I love what you're doing, helping other people out there. I love your message. So we've kind of touched on a little bit. Where can they find you? Where can they follow you and learn more about you?
Yeah, thank you. So I have two different things. So masterpassiveincome.com is my website. I have tons of real estate investing articles. My Master Passive Income podcast. That's where I basically just my content teaching people how to do rental properties. Like literally do this, then do this. I teach that. So Master Passive Income podcast and site, as well as I have coaching and courses there. But I also started a new podcast about in December. And I love it. It's called the Successfully Unemployed podcast. So I have two podcasts. I actually have three, but those are just the two we'll talk about. But Successfully Unemployed podcast, where I interview awesome people who are already successfully unemployed at whatever age. I've even had like 22-year-olds that are successfully unemployed and figure out a way. I've literally interviewed them and I'm like blown away at them.
Yeah.
And so, because I realized there are so many people that want to be successful and unemployed, but not everybody necessarily wants real estate, which is totally fine. That was my vehicle. That's my river of income. But there's so many other ways. So successfullyunemployed.co. I couldn't buy the .com. The guy didn't want to give it up. But successfullyunemployed.co and the Successfully Unemployed podcast.
That's awesome. Yeah, I love that. You're right. We've been talking a lot about real estate, but there's more than one way to do it for sure. And I did notice that on the podcast, like you were talking to all kinds of different people and things that they were doing to achieve that successfully unemployed status. So, well, I appreciate it. Seriously, Dustin, thanks for coming on, being a guest for us. I believe you truly are a maven in what you're doing. You're an expert in it. You're helping others get there too. And that's super commendable. I appreciate that. We'll definitely have all that stuff in the notes so they can reach out to you and find you there. But, thanks for coming on, and we'll talk soon.
Awesome. Thanks for having me, Justin. Thank you, guys.
Thanks for listening to the Money Maven Project podcast. A true maven shares knowledge with others, so be sure to share this podcast and leave a review. Thanks so much, and until next time, live life with intention.